All right, I am here with Mr. Nick Milotta. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you for being here. So you've got quite the life story.
Yeah.
I think so, anyway. So let's get away from being an actor, because that's kind of the journey you're on now, which is a new one for you.
Definitely.
Talk to me about the military, and thank you for your service, by the way.
Not a problem. When I was growing up, I was really into flight. I was really into learning how to fly. When I was 14, I actually started to take flying lessons, and I did my solo and stuff like that. And I always wanted to be a pilot in the Air Force. So my goal was always to go into the Air Force. Unfortunately, I didn't really have the grades to go to the Air Force Academy. So I went in and enlisted, and went in August of 2001, right about a month before September 11th. So, you know, I went in for this new life experience and this adventure, and then everything kind of changed the next month. You know, we didn't really know what we were doing. It was just kind of chaos. And luckily, though, I managed to stay out of the war zone the whole time I was in. I don't know how I managed that, but I went to a training base, actually, Luke Air Force Base. My first few years, I was a weapons technician. And around the same time, my buddy that I grew up with, Isaac, he went into the Army the same time that I went to the Air Force. We actually went to basic training at the same time. And he went to Iraq straight away, and he actually he didn't make it back. So that impacted me big time too. So,
yeah.
But it was a good experience. I learned a lot of skills and stuff that helped me get the job that I'm in now, and helped kind of form and mold my life into what it is.
Yeah. So. Huh. Well, that's a crazy story. I have some friends, a lot of family been in the military, and it's always scary, you know. Like,
yeah.
You know, and especially the young kids, they get in and they don't really know 100% why they're getting in sometimes, you know.
Right.
Yeah. Well, wow. So your friend's a true American hero then.
Sure.
Yeah, I would say. So you get out of the military, and you mentioned that you're a weapons grade specialist, but that doesn't necessarily translate into civilian life right away.
Not at all. No, not at all. So yeah, when you get out and you start to throw applications out there, and you know, what did you do? Well, I loaded bombs on an F-16. It's like, well, we don't really have any use for you here. So,
yeah. So
I ended up just kind of floating around, and the first job I got was actually a security guard, making like $8 an hour. I had to use my own car as like a patrol car, and that was actually after I moved down here, and I'd have to go and patrol like neighborhoods in South Phoenix with my car with a little magnetic placard on the side that said security. So yeah, just draw attention to myself down there, like 11 p.m. till 5 in the morning. And you know, they didn't pay for gas. You know, you had to pay for your own gas. So like when I got a paycheck, it was just enough to pay for the gas to get to work. So, you know, but I had to do it, you know, because I had to do something with myself, and I had to just keep on moving. Because after I got out of the military, I kind of was lost. I didn't really know what to do with myself, and I was kind of making a lot of bad decisions and mistakes, and those years were pretty tough. So, but I had to keep moving. I had to start from the bottom and kind of build my way back up to some type of career.
You know, I believe in that so firmly, the idea of moving forward, especially when things are not going right. Just taking that one step, the small step, sometimes can be like you don't know why or what it's leading toward, but then all of a sudden, like, something you had no idea was there came from that first step, right?
Absolutely.
It's so important not to step backwards or just stop.
Absolutely.
So, and that did happen for you, right? So through working as a security guard, you kind of worked your way up through a company or something?
Yes, so starting at that first position I had, which was like a low-level private doing the patrols, I worked my way up to lead security at the Biltmore. And I used to, you know, patrol the golf course in a golf cart that looked like a Hummer. So that was a pretty cool change, but still, you know, it wasn't really where I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. So I actually, one night I was there and I was looking at different jobs online, and there was an engineering firm that they were looking for people for a job. They weren't clear what it was. I had to go to the interview to find out, but the pay was really good. And it was an engineering firm, so I was like, that's really cool, you know. Mm-hmm. So I went to the interview, and then it ended up being climbing cell towers and working on antennas and running new lines and stuff like that. And you know, they said they had, you know, obviously they had trouble filling the positions because a lot of people that get there, you know, they're afraid of heights, and you know, they don't want to go out there and climb a tower in inclement weather and wind and stuff like that, which is understandable.
Yeah.
But I just felt like I needed to push myself further, and I thought that being part of an engineering firm would really help me round out and propel myself forward.
And then you're not afraid of heights, right?
I was when I started.
Really?
I never climbed anything higher than like a 12-foot ladder.
But you flew in planes.
I did, and
Just a different kind of height.
it's a different kind of thing because I don't know what it is. You're in a cockpit and you have control over it.
Yeah.
And for me, it wasn't ever really, as if I was looking over the edge of a cliff. I just felt like I had more control over it. But being on a tower on a rope with nothing, behind you is a completely different experience.
And you're the one that, or somebody harnesses you in, and you have to trust that that's been done properly, right? The rope and everything.
Right. Well, you prepare all your own harnesses, and you
Yeah.
prepare the rope and everything, and you have to make sure you tie yourself off. You check your gear. You're responsible for checking your own gear. And I remember the first tower I went to climb was a 400-foot tower up in Winslow in the middle of like December. And I remember I made it like halfway up the tower. It took me like 4 hours, and I was just like one step at a time. And I made it like halfway up, and then it started freezing rain. And then luckily we had to come back down. But after that, they were like, "Yeah, I don't know, Nick. I don't know if you're cut out for this."
Yeah.
So then I just said, you know what? The next day I was like, I'm going to go out there and I need to make it to the top of this tower. Like, I'm going to make it to the top of this tower. And I just went out there, and it took me a while, but I made it to the top. And once I got to the top, I was able to work and get going and get my mindset into it. And 2-3 towers after that, it just became second nature. That fear kind of went away, and I just was able to do my job.
That is such an unbelievably cool analogy. I'm so into facing your fears, and I mean the idea of climbing one tower at a time and going halfway up and coming back down, and that's what it's like for a lot of people here.
Sure.
Because anything where you put yourself out there and you have to expose your insides feels like you're on one of those towers. Like, that's what I compare it to, like walking across a tightrope.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then the more you do it, and the more you start to trust, and you whatever. I'm like, the fear never goes away. It's like you're still on a tower, but it feels like you've got a safety net that you can kind of trust and start to gain some confidence and whatnot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's incredible. And so then here we are now, and you got a great job, and then you found. Well, I know that your mom was a huge influence on you, right?
She was.
Yeah.
Yes. I've never been closer with anyone in my life, and even up to this point, than I was with my mother. She was a huge impact on me. She really instilled in me what it meant to truly love, what unconditional love was. She would always try to explain to me what unconditional love was, and she always said that, "Well, Nick, you'll understand when you have children of your own what it means, to unconditionally love someone." And I thought I had an idea of it, but I never really grasped it. She was the type of woman that I would tell anything to, like stuff that I tell my best friends, stuff that you would never tell your parents, I would sit down and talk to my mother about. That's just the type of relationship we had. She was a nurse for 30 years, and she was just the kindest, most loving, caring person to me in the world. And after I got out of the military, during that kind of rough time in my life, she also had found out that she had breast cancer. And during that time, we were moving from New York to Arizona, and she didn't want to, ruin the positive environment of the move. So she waited until after we got down here to tell us that what happened. So anyway, she went in, and unfortunately, she had a double mastectomy, and then by that time it was too late because it spread into the bones, and she actually had stage 4 bone cancer. She fought for 5 years. She went to Mayo, and they took great care of her, and she fought for 5 years, and then in 2015 she went. And I never understood what that unconditional love was until after I said goodbye to her. After she was gone, I realized that that unconditional love is something that transcends life, death, time, the universe. There is nothing that can cut that, because that bond that I had with my mother was still as strong as it was, if not stronger, and I felt it just like she was right next to me. And for me, that transcended death, that transcended everything else, the universe, dimension, everything.
Yeah.
And that, I felt how powerful that was. And that, for me, I wanted to share that with as many people as possible, because once I realized what that was and felt that, I wanted to bring that to other people, and especially people that were suffering and people that didn't have anybody. So I got into volunteering for Hospice of the Valley and in the palliative care unit. A lot of patients in there don't have family or friends, and nobody, doesn't matter what type of life you've led, nobody should be alone during the end like that. So that's what I did. I went in and I would spend time with them, cook meals for them, you know, just be a positive force, just so they can see a smiling face, and just to stay with them, just so they didn't have to be alone. And when a person is in that state, it doesn't matter what kind of person they were in their life. When a person is in that state, they just seek love. They want to be loved, accepted. They want to share love. They want to be connected with someone. And that also, that whole experience has transformed me as well.
You know, it's incredible. Are you aware of our values here?
Yes.
Yeah, it's passion, love, mastery, the three, and the middle one's love, and it's on purpose. The actual value itself is that love is at the center of everything we do, every decision we make, and we could be wrong. You know, we could make the wrong decision, but it should come from love. You know, and we really do that. Like, whatever clients we choose to bring in or not bring in or whatever, we look at that first and go, does this match up with our values? And I was fascinated by your experience of your mother passing. And do you have kids?
No.
Yeah, so she had mentioned, hey, you're not going to experience this, and I can tell you, I do have some kids, so I understand what she's saying, but it's the exact same feeling that you're describing.
Yes. So
you do know what it feels like, and it does transcend life. And to say that, to me, and I don't know what your faith belief is, but to me that makes it not of this world.
Absolutely.
You know, and my definition of God is love. And I like you, want to share this with as many human beings as I possibly can, because I feel like, you know, it took me a long time to find that and understand what it is, and to deal with it myself. And then I'm like, oh man, I want other people to feel this because it's important.
Yes.
And I've had some of those experiences, like when I was in college, because my dad's a doctor. I thought about going down that path, so I was in pre-med, and I got my patient care tech, you know, certificate. So I worked in the same type of homes that you were in. I changed diapers and whatnot, and just hung out with the elderly. And the difference was I was getting paid. So I got in trouble because I would just try to hang out with people and like make them laugh, and they'd be like, "Hey man, get back to work." And I'm like, "Aren't I doing the most important work right now?" You know. But yeah, so there is something to that moment when, like I remember my grandfather dying, and you can feel it. Like you can feel the spirit. Like there's no weight to it. You know, like they weigh the same as they did 2 seconds ago. And it's just like, it's like this thing that's out of this world.
Absolutely.
And the same thing happens, and that's why I said I've noticed, I've had the privilege of seeing 3 children be born. And when you watch them take that same breath, it's the same feeling. And I think that's what your mother was talking about. Because the same way you felt the spirit come out, you can feel the spirit is there.
Yes.
You know, it was already there, and it's just the breath of life comes in, and you're like, oh, like I've wept every time. It's just like an immediate cry, because it's the most beautiful thing. And I say it's the closest you can get to God is on these 2 ends of the spectrum.
That's a great way to look at it, and I never realized that it would be the same on both ends. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's incredible.
And I think actually, you know, my theory is that. That you're right about these people in hospice who they just want to be loved and love, right? But my theory is every person's that way. You're not willing to admit it until you're on death's door.
That's true.
Right? And so if we can figure that out, I was telling Joey the other day, I said, you know, tomorrow is a wonderful day to be alive. It's like exciting. and it's no different than Christmas Day. So for me, I get up super early, and I talk to God and I connect in because it's important to me to like live every day as if it's its fullest, right?
Absolutely.
So people look at me and they go, you get up and write and work on Christmas? Like, why would you? And I'm like, dude, every day is Christmas for me. Like, it's the other way around. It's not like that. It's like, you guys get Christmas once a year. I get it every day of the year because I want to live. I want to be alive and excited every single day, you know?
Absolutely.
And that's the thing. I mean, I'm so glad you're here. I mean, what an amazing story. And I think you have something in you, I know you do, that you can use your talent, use your gift, use laughter and love, and on the stage, and on any stage, and on the world's biggest stages, if you talk about movies and whatnot, I mean, you can change hearts at a massive scale, you know, and that's one of my goals, and we need an army, you know, to do that thing, and so, you know, we're just so glad to have you here. Really.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
And what you said about every day is Christmas. That's a good analogy, because before I started here, you know, I kind of struggled with finding every day to be in a positive light. You know, things would happen in my life, or something would happen at work, and I'd turn it into a negative, and I'd be upset, and you know, just kind of have a bad day. But every time I come here, it doesn't matter what kind of mood I'm in, every time I come here, I leave and I just feel great. I just feel great, and I realize, you know, I want to feel like that every day. I want to feel like that all the time, you know, and that is something you've made me realize by coming here. That's something Deering has made me realize, that I want to feel like that all the time, you know. And what am I doing that's making me feel that way? And it's just that bond that everybody has in the classroom and the teachers. It's just that positive energy. And it kind of directed me towards pursuing this. When I started, this was just going to be a hobby so I can maybe make some friends, but it's just been such a powerful, incredible experience for me that I want to pursue it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I can tell you, you know, I'm nowhere near, you know, anything spectacular other than just deep desire to share this crazy love with everybody. But one of the secrets to getting to feel that way every day, because I believe everybody can if they choose it, is similar to what we were talking about a second ago. So you think about the beginning and end of life, you gotta take care of the beginning and end of your day.
Yep. So
at the end of your day, you got to end it with love, and then you got to pack your bags for the next morning, and the next morning's got to be important to you, so that you jolt out of bed. You can't wait to wake up to do the things you're supposed to be doing that day.
Sure.
You know, and if you can find that way to start and end in love, things are going to go wrong in the middle, for sure. You know, that happens, but how you handle those things that go wrong, ideally, if you approach it from love, it's going to be easier for you anyway.
Sure.
You know. So, all right, very cool. So, do you remember your first class?
I do remember my first class. I remember I came to the parking lot, and I was kind of looking over towards the door, and I saw everybody over there kind of hanging out outside talking, and my first thought was, you know, I started to get nervous, and, you know, just negative thoughts. What if they don't like me? What if I embarrass myself? You know, what if this? What if that? You know,
what if you fall off the tower?
What if thank you. What if I fall off the tower? But I just said, you know what? I'm gonna get out of the car, walk through the door, and just, like, you know, climb the tower. So I came in, and I just knew as soon as we did that first warm-up exercise, which was the name game, everybody was being silly. Everybody was embarrassing themselves, and everybody was laughing and having a good time, and nobody had any flaws, and nobody was judgmental. And just immediately, I felt at home. I felt comfortable. And I was telling Joey earlier, I've never gotten closer to a group of complete strangers faster in my entire life. By the end of that class, I just felt connected to everybody, and that was just a beautiful experience. And I wanted to do it again and again and again, and I was, you know, something I could look forward to in my life. This was something that I could look forward to now, you know.
Yeah.
And it was life-changing.
Oh man, I'm so glad you had that experience. And of course, I believe Brian Sweeney was your teacher.
You know, Brian, yeah.
And you know, he's such an inspiration. He's been working with me since day one. I mean, I think he was 12 or something when he first started working with us. So, you know, we've been through a lot of those bad decisions too, and you know, and growing up, and you figure things out, and then And then once you get it, you go, okay, let me turn around and help the next guy, you know. But the fact that you had that experience, it's like, I always say that this stuff is so connected to life. And based on exactly what you said, right? Like, you've never gotten closer to a group of strangers in such a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
This is why we're able to work with big, huge, high-level corporations. Because we can take their C-suite and we can put them in a room, and they thought they knew each other, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but they have all these little like backstabbing, this and that going on. And by the time we're done with them, a 3-hour workshop, I mean, they're all best friends, and the company operates at a whole nother level because everybody trusts each other in a new way that they didn't before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's super cool. How's your everyday life changed? I guess we kind of mentioned this, but you mentioned something in here about you don't mind embarrassing yourself now outside of the classroom as well.
Right. So before I came to Deering, a lot of the time I would really try to analyze what I was going to say, and when I said it, I would then think about it. Like, did people think I was weird for saying that? Did I embarrass myself? Do they not like me now?
Mm-hmm.
And all this just negative stuff about, you know, I had to be perfect. I had to present myself perfectly and flawlessly to everybody.
Yeah.
And after working in here, and especially in Brian's classes, it just, that kind of melts away, because you practice that every time you come here. You do silly things, you know, you say weird stuff, you embarrass yourself in front of the whole class, but everybody's accepting of that, laughing, and
Yeah.
and you know, I just take that to the outside when I'm at work. If I say something silly or I say something that is kind of weird or embarrassing, I just kind of blow it off, and, you know, so what, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, it doesn't mean that these people are going to dislike me now, and even if they did kind of change their perception, then so what, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Just be happy and go on, and don't beat yourself up, you know?
So I'll take that even further. I can tell you, you know, one of the big things in improv is you look for the weird, and the weird becomes the game, and without the weird, there is no game, right? So, you know, you had mentioned something, the idea of like nobody has flaws, and it's actually the opposite. It's like everybody has these crazy big flaws, but here they're celebrated.
Right.
You know?
Yep.
It's like, and I always tell people, like, lean into the thing that's weird about you, and you know, you say something weird, say it again, and then say it again, and then say it again,
Yep.
and before you know it, it's like, oh, you have a stamp, you know, that's yours. Brian, for the longest time, you know, he had this story and whatnot, but he wasn't like all the way. You know, he was still trying to be something he wasn't, you know. And I said, Brian, show me your hands, because, you know, he doesn't have fingers. And he goes like this, right? And you look at this, right? And my hands look like his. And I was like, Brian, dude, like, I can do that. Do this. Because I can't hide my fingers in this,
Right.
you know what I mean? And so he started doing this, and his life changed. He started going, this is me, check it out, what's unique about me? And all of a sudden, like, his life took off. Because everyone's like, oh, that's cool, like, that's interesting, like, that's not something to be afraid of. Like, that, dude, that's your story. You're now inspirational because you do this instead of this.
And I'll say, Matt, my first class, Brian actually, he did this.
Did he really?
He made a joke, you know, and at first I was like, you know, but then right after that I was like, you know, that was really cool.
Yeah.
That was really cool that he's comfortable, that he's you know, it's not a crutch to him, or not a crutch, but I don't know what the word I'm looking for. But he just, you know, the totality in which he accepts it and made a joke about it, and everybody was accepting, and there was no negativity about it. You know? And that's the thing about Brian, and I told him this in class, there's not an ounce of negativity in the man. You know, nobody's perfect, I'm sure, but every time I've seen him, it's just a positive environment. It's a positive personality, and then just the energy that comes from him is totally positive all the time.
Yeah, you know, I can tell you, because I know Brian, he fights it just like everybody else, but the one thing about him is that man steps into the classroom and he gives everything he can. For right or for wrong, he puts his heart on the table. So the fact that you haven't seen it is a true, like, it's an effortful move by him to make sure that when he's in the classroom, everybody else comes first, which is a very cool thing, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, one word that describes the studio.
Passion. I would say passion. and I would choose this word because ever since the first time I've come here, everything that is done from the time you walk in the door to when Brian's teaching the class, every word that comes out of his mouth, every exercise, every scene, everything is passionate. Everything, it comes from your soul. Everything is not, it's not half-assed. It's all the way in, passionate with your heart, and it's, it's real. It's incredibly real, And through that, I want to be passionate in everything I do in my life because of that.
Yeah.
So I would say passion, definitely.
That's awesome. Thank you. And it comes back. That's the number one value.
Yep.
It's not the center one, but that's the first. Act with passion. And I had a meeting with our team, and I hadn't just said this to them before, but since day one, I've always been into this stuff. It's just recently I'm leaning more into the personal development, but we've always cared more about the person than we did the gig. Like, that's always been a thing. But now I'm like, dude, I'm all in on just using acting to better people.
Absolutely.
Period. And so I told them, I said, from day one, when you hear act with passion, what do you think? And they're like, oh, well, you're going to act, as an actor. And I'm like, no, what is act? Act is to do.
Yes.
It actually has nothing to do with acting.
Mm-hmm.
It's act with passion, and that means in every area of your life, we want you acting passionately, And they were like, oh.
And I'll just say real quick, one thing that improv has really helped me change was that, like I said earlier, a lot of my life, I'd think about what I was going to do, I'd analyze it and make sure it was the correct thing to say or do, but working through improv, you just got to get out there and do whatever's in your heart, whatever's in your mind, just boom, right off the bat. And in my life, that has helped me in my life too, because I do that in my life now. I just go, whatever's in my heart comes out of my mouth. And sometimes it's not really, the correct and proper thing, but it's honest, and it's.
But if it's from here.
Yes, but it's from here.
There's one thing to say what's like on your head, and I don't think that's good.
Yeah.
But you check spirit, you check love, you check the heart.
Yes.
And then you're honest. It's like, yeah.
Absolutely, and that's one value that I believe in. And somebody told me this once, if you base every decision on your life off your heart, what you feel is right, not what you think is right, every decision, by the time you're 70, 80 years old, you might not be a millionaire, you might not have a yacht, but you will be content.
Yeah,
so
that's wise. Love that. All right, what advice do you have for someone who's thinking about getting into acting?
Just
or maybe they just want to better themselves, or they're scared to take a first step or maybe they're even lost, like they don't even, like acting's not even on their mind. Just somebody who stumbles across the idea of doing something, especially from someone who's faced so many fears. I'd love to hear your advice.
Well, for me personally, I've wanted to get into something like this for a very long time, but it's always those fears that held me back. And I know it's the same way for a lot of people. You think, well, I want to do this, but maybe I wouldn't be any good at it, or I don't really have time to do that, or that's not really going to help me, or that's a crazy thing. Everybody wants to be an actor. Everybody wants to go to Hollywood and be a big movie star. That's a crazy thing. I'm not even going to bother with it. But just forget all that, forget all of it, and like we just said, go with what you feel is right. And if you feel like this is the right thing to do, then just do it. Just come in, walk through the door, and just get to that first class or that first meeting or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just put those fears aside and do it, and then see how you feel after that. If you feel rewarded and filled, and you have something that you didn't have before, then continue to do it. Just push forward. Push forward. Leave the negativity behind you, and just push forward. And the negativity will be replaced with positivity.
Yeah.
So.
And if for whatever reason you don't feel that, man, we encourage you go find the thing that does do
Absolutely.
that for you, right? I mean, that's a huge deal. And I can tell you, I can't tell you how many times we've heard that story of that fear in the parking lot thing, And what's funny is my goal here actually is to continue to create that experience for the students here over and over and over again. I don't want the fear to go away. I just want to help you get excited about it and start to seek it out.
Absolutely.
My whole thing I tell the guys here is I say, you have to want the critique. You have to seek it.
Yes.
And be very weary of people who compliment you too much because they're not the people loving you the most. You know, it's hard to critique somebody, to give them honest feedback.
That's very true.
You know, and those are the people, that's that unconditional love. Like, I'm going to love you by telling you the truth, even though I know you're not going to like me for it. And that to me is love.
Absolutely, I agree 100%.
Cool. Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you, Matt.
It's a great interview.
Thanks.